See, enough of this shit'll make you invincible. Able to conquer the world. And I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about this.
Hi, I'm Jordan Belfort. I used to be a legend on Wall Street, or you could call me the Wolf of Wall Street. You might have heard my story, you might have heard my name. But what does that name represent? It represents madness, wealth, and extreme decadence. It all started when I first set foot on Wall Street. Back then, I was just a rookie, filled with an insatiable desire for wealth. When I first entered Wall Street, I met my mentor, Matthew. This brokerage firm was nothing like what I'd imagined. Matthew told me the key to success was maintaining an unrelenting state of exhilaration, staying alert, and always being ready to seize every opportunity to make money. But at the same time, I saw the madness that consumed the place. Work, gambling, drugs, and sex filled every corner. People's lifestyles were extreme beyond belief. Soon I realized Wall Street wasn't the financial paradise I had imagined. The stock market crash and Black Monday in 1987 wiped out all my job opportunities, and the company went under. I became unemployed and life became a blur of uncertainty. It wasn't long before I found a new opportunity. A brokerage firm with no scruples, operating in a very unconventional way. Honestly, I wasn't that confident at the time, but I felt that this kind of company could at least offer me a chance to start over. The stocks we traded were worthless penny stocks, but it was precisely these stocks that could bring in huge profits. The key was finding those gullible clients. It was dirty, but effective. Don't be fooled by how cheap these stocks were. No one else wanted to touch them, but I made 50% commission off each one. At that time, I was completely immersed in the thrill of making money and started living the luxurious life I had always dreamed of. I bought an ultra-luxury sports car. It was around then that I met Donnie at a restaurant. He had been observing me for a while with a look of curiosity in his eyes. I guess he was thinking, how did this guy do it?
Hey, Paulie, what's up?
Donnie's curiosity eventually led him to quit his previous job and join me on this high-risk, high-reward path. My partnership with Donnie heated up like wildfire, and we became inseparable. Our goal was simple: to make money. Lots of it. We decided to start our own company. I came up with various ideas, even started looking for people among my old friends who, despite lacking formal education, were hungry for success and could offer unexpected help. My company became a small den of thieves and everything was about making money, money, money. I knew that the easiest people to deceive were the poor. The rich, well, they were too smart for me to fool easily. So I started reshaping my team, giving them rigorous training. You know what? At first, I looked down on their abilities, thinking they were just a bunch of street punks, good for nothing. But slowly, I realized they were masters at business. Our target became clear. We were going to sell to ordinary, uneducated families. These people often pinned all their hopes on the miracle of the stock market. And as long as we kept inflating their fantasies of a bright future, they'd pour all their money into our hands. As time passed, my company grew from a small operation to a market giant. Money, fame, power seemed like they were all within my grasp. I bought luxury cars, mansions, even a private yacht, and lived a life of unimaginable luxury. But even then, I still felt an emptiness inside that I couldn't fill. I wasn't satisfied. I wanted more. More power, more success, more women. Even though my wife didn't approve of our methods, she even asked me, "Why don't you scam the rich?" I had thought about that. Why not target the wealthy? But you know what? The rich don't believe in us street hustlers. They just don't. So, I had an idea. What if we could package these people, make them look like elites? Wouldn't that attract the wealthy? I gave my company a name, registered the trademark, even fabricated a so-called company history. Outwardly, we created a mature, professional image for the company. Then, I started training the team, teaching them how to communicate with the smart, skeptical rich. The wealthy don't care how sincere you are. What they care about is how confident you are in your work. Once they trust you, the money starts flowing in. You know, I honestly thought I could stay at the top forever, be an eternal winner. Every day I reveled in the incomparable thrill of taking money from others, riding in luxury cars, enjoying the yacht, surrounded by beautiful women, and living in a world where drugs and wealth made anything possible. But life can't always be smooth sailing. I knew this, but I couldn't believe it until it finally came. Next, I decided on my next step: help a company go public. The plan was simple: let others get on board while I made big money behind the scenes. Donnie's childhood friend had a women's shoe company, and we decided to target her business. During this time, my personal life also changed. I met Naomi, and she became my new lover. We had a wonderful time together. Although I still felt guilty, I knew this life was what I truly wanted. My wife soon found out about my affair and divorced me, while Naomi moved in. Life became even crazier, and I was consumed with desire for her. My life further spiraled into decadence. I proposed to Naomi, prepared a lavish wedding, and bought a 170-foot yacht. We had an extravagant wedding, and then I bought a mansion, living a completely indulgent life. At this point, Dana, that FBI agent, started to focus on me. He even investigated my wedding footage. My lawyer warned me not to play games with him, but I didn't listen. Why should I? He was just a small-time player. I dared to approach him privately, see if I could get something out of him, even considered bribing him. But it turned out he wasn't buying it and almost used my words as evidence against me. That was when I realized things were more complicated than I thought. The next challenge was how to handle all that dirty money. We thought of the safest place, Swiss banks. So, Donnie and I flew to Geneva and talked to the bank's executives about account deposits. The bankers were vague, hinting that the money could be stored under someone else's name. Of course, this old-school trick was something I was all too familiar with, but things weren't as simple as I had thought. Donnie had an argument with Brandt during the handover, and Brandt got thrown in jail, but he didn't sell us out. Donnie realized things were going south, so he got hold of some high-concentration drugs to cover things up. But the drugs had expired years ago and were useless. To be safe, we both swallowed all the pills in one go. Just then, I got a call from my lawyer, telling me to rush to a payphone. I learned that my house was already being monitored by the FBI. Things were getting worse, so I had to rush back and stop Donnie from taking any calls. At that moment, the drug took effect, and I passed out on the floor. But I knew this was my last chance. Even if I had to crawl, I would make it to the car and stop Donnie. You don't know how crazy I was at that moment, desperately trying to prevent everything from falling apart. Finally, I got home, and Donnie was talking to the bank. I had to stop him. In that instant, he choked on his food. I saved him from choking, and then I collapsed from exhaustion and fell asleep on the floor. When I woke up, I was arrested by the police. It was because I had a minor accident on my way home. Luckily, no one was hurt, and I just paid a fine and was released. But Brandt's situation was grim. He was sentenced to 3 months in jail. The worst part came next. Everyone started urging me to accept the SEC's settlement offer, saying that would end the FBI investigation. But the price was that I would have to leave the securities industry forever even walk away from my company. What could I do? I stood on stage and announced, "I'm not going anywhere." The employees erupted in applause, and I could feel their support. Meanwhile, Dana and his team were closing in on us. Luckily, my company was incredibly loyal. Under FBI scrutiny, not a single person in my team sold me out. But then, my partners started to turn against me. To save themselves, the owners sold off 85% of our shares. I was powerless to stop it. Word came from the Swiss bank that Naomi's aunt had passed away, but her accounts still held millions. So I decided to fly to Switzerland. But I was hit with all sorts of restrictions and couldn't even get on a plane. Out of desperation, I took the yacht. During the journey, the yacht sank in a storm. Luckily, I was rescued in time and survived. A few months later, I decided to turn my life around. 2 years without touching any illicit drugs, and I almost thought I'd become a saint. I started a training course, using my experience to teach others how to make money. But good times don't last. The FBI came knocking, and the head of the Swiss bank was arrested. To reduce his sentence, he turned me in. My crimes were fully uncovered. All the money was seized by the court, and I became broke. I couldn't even afford the $10 million bail.